Hi there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. We often poke fun at the Jedi Order for their inconsistencies and hypocritical ways. We point out the more ridiculous parts of their belief system and the foolish actions of their less competent members. That doesn't necessarily make me a sympathizer of the Sith Order, though. I think their organization in a lot of ways is a lot worse than the Jedi Order, and I definitely want to hang out more with Jedi than Sith Lords. So I do believe that the Sith are equally deserving of ridicule. The only problem is there are generally far fewer Sith to make fun of, especially during the Rule of Two period. But nonetheless, we've created a list of 5 extremely incompetent Sith Lords for your viewing pleasure. Why did Darth Bane create this whole Rule of Two situation? Well, a lot of it is blamed on the fact that he met an individual named Skir Khan. During the new Sith War, Skir Khan was this promising Jedi Master who was going to lead the Jedi to victory over the Sith. That was until he defected to the Sith with several other Jedi and started the Brotherhood of Darkness. At the time, the Sith Empire had fractured into dozens of smaller factions. This oftentimes happened when the Sith ran out of people to kill and fight. They would just turn against each other. Lord Khan took a more interesting route in leadership and declared that all the Sith Lords in the Brotherhood of Darkness were equal, and that they should cooperate with one another in order to reach their goals. And so Skir Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness would actually slowly work its way up to the top of the Sith Empire, become the most dominant faction. But Skir Khan himself was actually a pretty mediocre Force user at best, but what he was good at was logistics, fleet management, and economic policy. He was essentially a middle management bureaucratic Sith Lord. While there are places in the Sith Empire for individuals like him, it's usually not at the top. But what made Lord Khan special was the fact that he had an immense amount of charisma and Sith sorcery on his side. He was also excellent at battle meditation and also frequently used mind tricks on his followers to ensure their loyalty. Now, Darth Bane quickly saw through Lord Khan's farce and sensed his internal weakness. He realized that as long as there were large numbers of Sith, weaklings like Lord Khan's crew could band together and overpower someone much stronger like himself. And so he would begin to plot the destruction of Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness. Ultimately, Lord Khan's intelligence was no match for Darth Bane, and he would be tricked into killing himself along with all of his followers with an ancient Sith ceremony known as the Thought Bomb. Pretty incompetent if you ask me. The Rule of Two was supposed to weed out the weak-minded and feeble Sith and create a competitive environment where only the strongest could survive. But even Darth Bane's system had its hiccups. Meet Darth Gravid. We don't have actual pictures of him, so let's assume that he looks like this. He was in power around 552 BBY, and he would have a Twi'lek apprentice known as Darth Geen. Darth Gravid would eventually develop this notion that the Sith's absolute devotion to the dark side would eventually destroy the Sith Order. He was probably right in a way, because the dark side does destroy and ultimately betray everything it touches. And so Darth Gravid would actually start incorporating Jedi teachings into his own teachings. He would look into concepts like altruism and empathy and actually practice it. Slowly, Darth Gravid would begin to lose his mind when he realized how incompatible the Jedi and Sith teachings were, and he ultimately came to the conclusion that he needed to destroy all of the Sith artifacts and teachings and holocrons in his possession so that no one could find them in the future. Once he clears out some of these more poisonous ancient Sith doctrines, he believed that he could recreate the Sith into a more positive organization. Now, Darth Geen, his apprentice, realized that her master was going crazy and she would eventually confront him and kill him in a duel. But not before he destroyed a massive amount of Sith knowledge that would never again be recovered. Darth Plagueis actually talks about this later on to Palpatine, and he says basically Darth Gravid set back the Sith many generations and almost destroyed their grand plan to kill the Jedi and take over the galaxy. Savage Opress came out of the gate swinging hard and showed a lot of promise. He was this massive, hulking Dathmiri character who also happened to be the brother of the very powerful Darth Maul and the son of the equally powerful Mother Talzin, the Dathmiri matriarch. Opress would beat out several other Night Brothers in a trial known as the Selection and be chosen by Asajj Ventress for her revenge plot against her former master Count Dooku. She would enlist Opress into the service of Dooku as an enforcer. Opress would get several Jedi kills in his early missions, showing that he was at least capable of taking out some weaklings who honestly belong in the Jedi archives and not on the front lines. Now, Savage Opress had plenty of brute strength, but he lacked control and finesse. And when it comes to lightsaber combat, that is oftentimes much more important. When it comes time for Asajj Ventress to make her move against Dooku, Opress kind of fails and goes berserk and loses control. He ends up attacking both Asajj and Count Dooku. Now, Savage Opress would eventually go on to find his brother Maul, who's basically been stuck on a trash planet since the Phantom Menace. The poor bastard has completely lost his mind. Opress brings Maul back, and Mother tells him cures his craziness with some Sith alchemy, and the two brothers run around the galaxy creating havoc. Again, Savage seems pretty competent against lesser Jedi like Master Adi Gallia, but against someone who's actually a bit stronger like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he doesn't really stand much of a chance and can't seem to gain an upper hand. You see, it turns out the only reason that Savage Opress could even keep up with his brother Maul was because he was essentially given performance-enhancing Dathomiri magic by Mother Talzin. She used her abilities and the magic of Dathomir to amplify his strength, aggression, even his physical size and connection to the Force. But what Savage Opress never truly developed was some ability with a lightsaber. And so when Palpatine comes in to check in on his former apprentice Maul, he tosses Savage Opress around like a ragdoll. One of the reasons why I love Star Wars so much is that the galaxy is massive. So massive that within Star Wars there are actually like sub-genres. One of my favorite subgenres is the Star Wars zombie story, which is depicted in two excellent novels, Death Troopers and Red Harvest. In the Star Wars universe, one way the zombie plague came into fruition was a plant known as the Murakami Orchid. This is one of the most Force-sensitive plants in the galaxy, and probably one of the most sensitive plants as well. You see, it would actually bond with a Force user, and once that bond was made, if that Force user went too far away from the plant, it would essentially die and give up on living. This is why, by the way, being in the agricultural corps was terrible. You essentially had to babysit needy and very deadly Force-sensitive plants for the rest of your life. Darth Gravid, like so many Sith Lords before him and also after him, was in pursuit of an elixir that would bring him immortality. He believed that he could bend the Murakami Orchid's special abilities to his will and create a formula for immortality, a formula that he would first try on one of his apprentices, who of course dies in the experiment and then comes back as a mindless zombie. He would start attacking everyone, including Darth Gravid, and turn them into mindless zombies as well. These zombies are immortal, I guess, so in a way, he's kind of succeeded. Or at least that's how dumb Darth Gravid was. He believed he actually wanted a part of this stupid zombie plague. He was, however, smart enough to develop a backpack which basically constantly gave him fresh blood transfusions so that the sickness of the zombie plague wouldn't take over his mind. But in the end, his efforts were meaningless because he too would turn into a mindless, but I guess immortal zombie. Now, I know this last choice is going to be a little controversial for a lot of you folks out there, but hear me out. Count Dooku was an excellent duelist and extremely powerful in the Force. He had excellent telekinesis abilities, and he was an expert at sending out Sith lightning. But he was most likely chosen by Darth Sidious because he lacked true ambition to become a Sith Lord in the Rule of Two era. Meaning that Darth Sidious actually trusted Count Dooku quite a lot because he believed that his apprentice lacked initiative. And so he was comfortable with giving Dooku control of the entire Separatist alliance. Now, if you take a look at the Clone Wars, especially during the first few years of the Clone Wars, the CIS military greatly outnumbered the Republic. Count Dooku could have easily won the war if he had struck at Coruscant or the Core Rim, instead of holding back and playing along with Palpatine's little plan. I mean, Count Dooku wasn't just a mere puppet. The people of the Confederacy loved him because they saw him as a true champion of their sovereignty and rights. And we know he's incompetent because just look at how surprised Count Dooku looks when Palpatine goads Anakin into killing him. I mean, how did Dooku not see this coming? He's a few decades older than Darth Sidious. How could he expect to continue being his apprentice? So there you have it, guys. 5 pretty incompetent Sith Lords. It just goes to show us that incompetence is not something just the Jedi have. Everyone can be incompetent, no matter what group you belong to. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you think about my list. Maybe I'm missing some incompetent Sith Lords that you know about. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.